Clara used to say it every time someone asked her about Steve. "He's my peace." And she meant it. They did everything together. Late-night walks, cooking experiments, inside jokes that nobody else understood. For Clara, Steve wasn't just a boyfriend. He was her calm after a hard day. The reason she smiled at her phone for no reason. The voice that slowed her racing thoughts. If you asked her what happiness looked like, she'd probably point at Steve. And that's where the danger began. One Saturday afternoon, Clara went grocery shopping. Nothing unusual, but when she got to the checkout, her card suddenly declined. Not once, not twice. Declined. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. People behind her shifted impatiently. Just when she thought she'd sink through the floor, a kind voice said, "I got it." Clara turned. A beautiful young woman, Evelyn, or Eve as she introduced herself, swiped her card with a smile. That random act of kindness turned into small talk. Small talk turned into friendship. Soon Clara and Eve were texting, laughing, sharing little pieces of their lives. And one evening, after weeks of invites, Eve finally came over. She stepped into Clara's living room, and there was Steve. At first, Clara didn't understand the sudden silence. Steve froze. Eve froze. They looked at each other as if a ghost had walked in. Clara blinked, confused. She thought maybe they knew each other from somewhere. An old classmate, a distant cousin, something innocent. But Eve's face changed. Shock melted into something darker. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "Steve?" Clara looked from one to the other, waiting for an explanation. Steve stammered, fumbling for words that wouldn't come. Clara tried to laugh it off. "Wait, you two know each other?" That's when Eve's voice cracked. She turned to Clara and said, "The husband I told you about, the one I always called my peace, it's him. It's Steve." The room spun. Clara's chest tightened. Every memory she had of Eve describing her loving husband came rushing back. Every sweet detail, every story. And now, standing in her own living room, she realized the man she called peace was the same man Eve called peace. Except he wasn't peace at all. He was chaos in disguise. Steve buried his face in his hands. Because here was the cruel twist. When he told Eve he had to leave town for a business opportunity, he never realized the city he'd chosen was the same one where he had started a new life with Clara. His lies had collided head-on. The truth spilled out faster than either woman could process. Steve wasn't just Clara's fiancé. He was Eve's husband, married in another city, living a double life, playing roles in two different love stories. Clara felt the ground beneath her shatter. The man she called her peace was the very chaos tearing her life apart. The safe place she built in him turned into a battlefield overnight. Now pause. This is the Stoic test the ancients warned us about. Epictetus would say, when you pin your peace on another, you hand them the strings to your soul, and they can drop them whenever they please. Clara's story is painful, but it's common. How many times do we make someone else our entire emotional compass, only to discover they were lost themselves? The Stoics didn't hate love. They didn't tell us to avoid closeness. But they warned us, if your calm depends on someone else, then it isn't calm. It's dependency in disguise. So what happens when peace walks away? Clara cried. She grieved. She replayed every moment, every laugh, every word Steve had ever said. But slowly, with time and reflection, she learned what Marcus Aurelius wrote centuries ago. No man can rob you of your mind, unless you let him. Clara started journaling, meditating, rebuilding her identity not as Steve's fiancée, but as her own person. Her peace, for the first time, stopped living in someone else's pocket. It started living inside her. That's the Stoic lesson. Love deeply, yes. Share life, yes. But don't build your entire peace on shifting sand, because when the person leaves or betrays, you'll collapse with them. Instead, build your peace like a fortress, inside, untouchable. So I'll leave you with this. If your partner is your peace, what happens if they walk away tomorrow? Would you still stand? Or would you, like Clara, need to rebuild from the ruins? This is Echo Stoic_TV, where we tell stories that train the mind, not just the heart. Subscribe, because the next story might just prepare you for the peace no one can take.